Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about different types of cars and how you can actually adjust your type of driving to accommodate for any type of off-roading. A lot of people feel that they need to get very specific cars to do any serious off-roading. But we're here to tell you that it's not the case. You can actually, if you know what you're doing, you can take any car. I'm sure you've seen probably in YouTube or Instagram that people off-road with Corollas or Camrys. So we have 4x4s here that can definitely do some kind of off-roading. Back here, when Nick, Matt, and we were driving in, I had my dad's Land Cruiser, who is the club founder. By the way, we have a special occasion where we have Mr. Ahmed Pervez's car, his Land Cruiser, and because I was following them, and they had the Pajero and the Prado, which are obviously modified, I was finding it a bit difficult in the beginning. But as we moved a little bit forward, I was able to adjust my type of driving, and I was able to find the same sort of comfort that I have on my FJ with the Land Cruiser. And obviously, as you know, that the FJ and the Land Cruiser 100 series are very different because of their wheelbase, because of their weight, because of their type of engine, where you find the max torque and max horsepower. All of those things are very different. So it took me about 5 minutes, according to Nick. It felt a lot longer to me, but according to Nick, it was 5 minutes. And I was able to find the right kind of driving to adjust whatever I needed to do for the Land Cruiser. And this video is all about a comparison between a Land Cruiser 100 series, a Prado 150, and a Pajero 3.8. So let's dive in. So earlier we were talking about how I had to adjust my type of driving according to the Land Cruiser because it has a longer wheelbase. The Prado 150 here and the Pajero, they both have a shorter wheelbase. So Matt, what do you think are the advantages or the disadvantages of having either a longer base or a shorter wheelbase?
I think the longer wheelbase gives you a bit more confidence when you're tackling ridges. I think that greater surface area effectively in terms of displacement of those four corners of the car allow you to balance the car a little bit more easily, and certainly when you're climbing you can try and find that balance point faster when you're striking a ridge. That said, when you're moving over into more technical terrain and potentially you're dropping down into bowls that's got a very narrow width, a longer wheelbase car is a higher risk of getting stuck as you're moving through that sort of terrain. So in that area, a shorter wheelbase would make life a lot easier.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That probably is one of the major differences between if you compare any two different cars for off-roading. That is going to be a major factor in what your type of driving has to be to adjust according to your car. The second thing I think that is very important is the approach and the departure angle. So this is kind of related to your wheelbase, because where your wheels are positioned, how far away they're positioned from your front and the back of your car, obviously are related to your wheelbase, but it's different on different cars. I don't know how they kind of figure this out, but they do find different places to put the tire, and that makes a very big difference in your off-roading. So Matt, can you enlighten us on how it makes a difference if you have a better approach angle, or if your car can tackle a steeper approach angle and a departure angle versus a slightly less steep?
I think all of this starts to break into when you're talking about climbing a dune from the steeper side, doesn't it? And when you're trying to climb a dune from a steeper side, certainly in my car here, that has a slightly lower front on it, I'm always listening for the sound of the crunch of it hitting the front. And even though I'm confident that this isn't going to break, it's quite flexible and malleable, I'm always waiting to hear it strike, and then I have to try and ease it up. If you've got a slightly greater clearance angle at the front and approach angle at the front, like the Prado here, you've got that bit more confidence that you can drive straight into the obstacle and tackle it. That said, I've always had the argument in my head that the faster you're approaching an obstacle, you're more out of control. And so actually having that greater control angle, unless you really know what you're doing from a technical viewpoint, you might be conned into a false sense of security to drive at the dune and then to be able to tackle something at a faster pace than is maybe appropriate for
Actually,
it.
that is a very good point. Like a lot of people, like we've talked about this in our previous video as well, where a lot of people compensate for their technique with speed, because let's face it, you can pretty much go through any obstacle if you're fast enough. But what happens on the other side? Once you cross the obstacle, how many pieces is your car in? That kind of it really makes a difference in what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do. And obviously, we have opinions. Whatever we express in our videos, we have opinions. In our opinion, we feel that going slower over certain obstacles, at least the technical bits, is obviously better. Once you have the right amount of experience, once you have the right amount of knowledge, yes, you can go faster, but in the beginning you should keep your speed relatively slow, and that will help you off-roads in a safe manner. And that being said, Matt talked about how good the approach angle on this car is. This is not the stock bumper, as you can tell. This is actually a metal bumper, so it has a very good approach angle. The stock bumper on the Prado 150 actually comes till about here, and I think Nick is the best person to talk about this. However, he's behind the camera, so I'm just gonna do a rubbish job on his behalf. I remember him saying that whenever somebody starts off-roading with a Prado 150, the first thing that happens with their bumper is there's a kink that happens right here, because their stock bumper, which comes till about this part, about this low, it starts hitting and then starts bending up, and there's like almost there's like a kink which happens in the bumper. And obviously in the newer models you have the fog lights which are right here, so it's very difficult to relocate them as well. And I mean, this is not to say that you have to straight away change your bumper to a metallic bumper, but this is to say that a Prado 150 is not as good as this particular Prado 150 is in terms of approach and departure angle. The next thing we're going to talk about is the rev ranges, right? So when in one of our videos, Matt was talking about the rev range and how important it is on his Pajero to get the right rev range to sort of get the optimum capability of his car. Similarly, that is not exclusive to his Pajero, but it's common to every car. When I'm driving my FJ, because it's a manual, I'm able to get the right amount of torque at a very low RPM because of the gearing. Whereas when I'm driving the Land Cruiser 100 series, for example, I really have to get it at the right RPM, or not at the right RPM, not as much as probably the Pajero needs to be, but because it's a V8, but I need to still get it slightly higher RPM than my FJ to make it perform the same as my FJ. Matt, do you wanna add something to that?
I think it's, from my perspective, it's just about finding that sweet spot of every car, and that only comes with one thing: it's practice all the way through. It's practice and comfort with your own car.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously, so this is something that we talk about in our courses, where your power band is. So where the lower part of your power band is your max torque, and the higher part of your power band is the max horsepower. In between this is what motor enthusiasts call a power band. And if you find those numbers, you can literally search your engine specs, your particular car engine specs, and you can find those numbers, and that will really help you out in off-roading. As always, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. Thanks for tuning in.